hosted December 10, 2018, 18 hours 1 minute and 15 seconds. As these kinds of test matches tend to do, the fifth day in Adelaide teased the unexpected but delivered the deserved. Australia's tail-end defiance ever so briefly gave it thoughts of a victory that had seemed beyond it for days, but in the end only served to dilute the margin of India's. It's a moment to cherish for India, a first test win on Australian soil since 2008, earned with a plan orchestrated and executed to near perfection and to a standard touring Indian teams have rarely matched. Any test Australia loses at home feels like a minor disaster, but in truth this was always a tighter match than it often felt, decided really by Cheteshwar Pujara, the one player who was able to control the tempo of this match for any extended period of time, and the metronomic Indian bowling attack. That Australia's batting lineup didn't possess its own Pujara equivalent was as evident pre-match as it was as the first innings fell apart. There were incomplete replica efforts from Travis Head and Sean Marsh, but neither was quite able to match the real thing. The difference between Australia's first innings bowling effort and its second was the other deciding factor, again further highlighted when held in contrast to its opponents. One, admittedly crude, way to illustrate the divide between Australia's two bowling efforts is the sundries column. Only one was bowled in the first innings compared to 36 in the second. The Indians simply didn't have the periods of looseness that plagued Australia on day 4. But with a turnaround between tests as rapid as this, the next game starts in Perth on Friday. The time for reflection is short. Decisions will have to be made, and should they be the wrong ones, this 4-match series could have escaped Australia before Boxing Day. There will be calls for changes to the team. Justin Langer has suggested the entire top 3 is subject to debate, one that most of the Australian public will be more than willing to partake in. Aaron Finch's first test at home was an inch from ending in a pair, and hardly amounted to much more. Marcus Harris' debut was somewhat promising, but in both innings he failed to reach 30, which even by Cricket Australia's own new lowered benchmark is considered a failure. Usman Khawaja was too cautious in one innings, too cavalier in the other. Some will still tell you Peter Handscomb's technique has no place in Test cricket. Head, Marsh and Tim Paine fluctuated wildly between the sublime and ridiculous. It will be interesting to see if the last day drama mutes the calls for change to the 11, which had lingered in the background from around day 2. Plenty of names have been tossed about as potential incomings, and selectors have been known to get itchy at times of home discomfort. This probably should not be one of those times. Partly because of the fine margins that determined the result in the match, partly because the second test begins on Friday, but mostly because being in a state of flux is absolutely the last thing this team needs going into what may be a decisive second test. Instead, improvement can come from other avenues, the most pressing being determining the root causes of the Mitchell-Starc problem and finding a way to get his fire burning again. The noises from Perth, predictable as they are, suggest the new stadium will house a pitch full of the heat and horror of the old-school WACA wickets. If that doesn't get Starc hot under the collar, then the man is made of ice. If there's an injury problem lurking, it would be better to be upfront about it, lest his issues be misdiagnosed as a lack of nasty stares at the batsman. Of any player in the side, batsman or bowler, Starc's ability to swing matches in a short period of time is unsurpassed, a weapon that misfired badly for Australia in Adelaide. The batting is a different proposition altogether, a long-term project whose ceiling remains unknown and whose failures will be scrutinised beyond proportion. The issue with Australia's top order in Adelaide was mostly shot selection, not ability or skill, which suggests the coming days should be spent finding a clarity of mind rather than technical overhauls. But most of all, the positives for Australia need to be considered. The first innings bowling and fielding effort, the cool head, the relentless Nathan Lyon, the fifth-day fightback, and the fact that all this came against a supremely skilled opponent. In many ways, the response to Adelaide could be more important than the result. Topics: Cricket, Sport, Adelaide 5000, SAW, Australia, India.